With one person, you have 4 other people to talk to. Gantavyam panchabhi saha. If you're traveling somewhere, travel with 5 people. So you have protection in case of any emergency. And panchabhi saha vaktavyam. If you wish to speak something, there should be at least how many people in the audience? 5. Oh my goodness. All of you have clearly superseded my expectations multifold. Na dukkham panchabhi saha. There is absolutely no unhappiness if at least 5 are there. Today I have been told there will be at least 150 to 200 devotees. So I am very, very happy. Thank you very much, dear devotees. All of you are the primary cause of the success of this entire effort. My sincere thanks also to Shri Srimad Sachinandan Swami Maharaj for kindly organizing this entire Easter retreat and teaching me the concept of a tree house. I'll never forget. My sincere thanks also to Shri Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj for kindly delivering such a wonderful speech this morning. And Maharaj is here. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for kindly delivering such a wonderful speech this morning. Dear devotees, in order to ensure auspiciousness for the entire event, we should perform Mangalacharan, auspicious invocations. So I'll sing Mangalacharan. Most of you know these verses. You can kindly sing along with me. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले सोऽयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Srila Prabhupada ki. So dear devotees, welcome
Hare Krishna, dear Gaura,
to
Hare.
this presentation
So
on
we
Srila
will meet
Rupa
now in
Gosvami
temple room, but just
Sikharini.
in case we don't.
Yesterday,
yes, I am
the
aware
term
that some
Sikharini was
devotees do have
introduced,
access to the
but
live
many of us were not present
broadcasting, but
yesterday.
yeah,
So
quite
I
some
will
don't have.
do a quick
Like
recap
I
of
was
the term
sometimes
Sikharini
able
today.
to watch it, but
But
only
before we
on
begin,
my PC and not on my mobile.
I was
So
very much happy
Priya told
that
me that
this
it's not
morning
possible to watch it in Govindas, for
Sri Swayam
example.
Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj
And
spoke about
later on, I could
the
also not
necessity
watch
to go
it
deeper
here.
into our
No,
bhajan,
no kind
our
of
seva. And even yesterday,
yeah,
Sri
neither
Sachinandan Maharaj
notebook nor
spoke about the
PC
same.
nor mobile would. It's
Srila
always a sign
Prabhupada
like it's
confirms
trying to connect.
the need for going deeper into our bhajan, into the writings of our previous acharyas. Dear devotees, there is something that Srila Prabhupada says. I will show it on the screen. Shri Prahlad Prabhu, you can kindly read what Prabhupada says.
A sincere devotee must, therefore, be prepared to hear the Vedic literature like the Upanishads, Vedanta, and other literatures left by the previous authorities, or Goswamis, for the benefit of his progress. Without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. Without hearing and following the instructions, the show of devotional service becomes worthless, and therefore a sort of disturbance in the path of devotional service.
So Srila Prabhupada is very clear that if we want to advance on the path of bhajan, we should follow the footsteps of the previous acharyas or the Goswamis. Otherwise, he is very clear that after some time, devotional service becomes a show. And then he says that this show of devotional service becomes a disturbance on the path of devotional service. These are very serious words from Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, dear devotees, I have dared to venture into some writings of the previous acharyas. Actually, anyone who wishes to speak on the poetry of Srila Rupa Goswami or the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna, any speaker will have this dilemma, because when they look at the audience, some of them may have a question mark saying that are we eligible for this? So, for many years, this question of eligibility haunted my mind. Finally, I found a quote by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in order to settle the question of eligibility once and forever. So, dear devotees, should we settle the question of eligibility once and forever? Yes. So, let's settle the question of eligibility, because Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at least my impression of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is like a very strict acharya who's saying, no, you're not eligible. When I look at his photographs, his paintings, he is looking at me very seriously, telling me how unqualified I am. So, I always used to pay obeisances from a distance. But one day I found a wonderful quote by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur once organized a parikrama of Sri Radha Kund. In this parikrama of Sri Radha Kund, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur sat down and he started speaking about the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. Everybody was surprised because they thought that he will speak on the Upanishads. That is what he would do usually at Radha Kund. He would speak on the Upanishads. But this time he started speaking on the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. And just as he had begun, he saw the looks on the faces of the devotees. They are very surprised. So then he ended up saying something. I would like to quote Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur about hearing eligibility for the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna, so that the issue is settled once and forever, dear devotees. Alright? So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says something about it, and here is what he says. Shri Prahlad Prabhu, kindly read.
All these days we have not spoken about Ashtakaliya Leela, conjugal eightfold pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But this is our most confidential asset. This is our only sadhya, perfection. One should not make the mistake of thinking that anartha nivritti, overcoming impediments such as lust, etc., is the prayojana goal of bhakti. One thinking like this will never enter into artha pravritti, acquiring one's actual need. For this reason, I will now begin speaking about Ashtakaliya Leela.
So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that those individuals who are thinking that anartha nivritti, or getting rid of the negatives in bhakti, is the goal of bhakti, unfortunately they have missed the target. More important than anartha nivritti, or removing the negatives is artha pravritti, filling in something positive. Therefore, he said, I will now begin speaking about the confidential pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna, and these were the most confidential pastimes, Ashtakaliya Leela, on the banks of Radhakund. That is what he was speaking. He further continues, Prabhu.
I know that you are not ready to hear it, but we should know that such a transcendental ideal exists within the realm of devotion. Beyond the realm of anartha nivritti is artha pravritti, pure conjugal service to Radha and Krishna.
He continues,
This is transcendental reality. If we do not know of this transcendental realm, then all of our efforts may end in nirviseshavada. Do not let your day pass in simply trying for anartha nivritti. Artha pravritti is also necessary. Anartha nivritti is necessary only until artha pravritti has started. When artha pravritti is present, anartha nivritti becomes unimportant and artha pravritti becomes prominent.
so he was very clear that please don't let all of your days pass simply in trying to remove the negatives. It is also important to cultivate the positive aspects of Shri Krishna Bhajan. Otherwise, all of our efforts may end up in nirvisheshvad, he said, impersonalism. And yesterday in the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, I had emphasized that too much renunciation makes one a jnani or an impersonalist. So he is speaking about the exact same thing, that too much of removing the negatives will make us an impersonalist. So the question is not yet settled. Who can listen to these pastimes and who cannot listen to this? Finally, he gives a very quantitative answer, because many times we are saying, I am not qualified, until the end of our life we keep saying, I am not qualified. Have you ever seen a devotee who says, I am qualified? No. So how do we become qualified? There has to be a certain parameter set in order to become qualified. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur sets the parameter in numerical terms. This is what he says.
Those who have chanted Harinam for 15 or 20 years should know such things. The beginners need not hear these topics, or they will misunderstand. These topics are for certain audiences, not for all.
Yes. So it has been said, dear devotees, how many of us have chanted Harinam? Now please don't say I have not yet chanted, okay? How many of us have chanted Harinam for 15 years, dear devotees? Please raise your hands. See, a good quantity of devotees here. And there are many devotees who have not yet chanted for 15 years. So what about them? So please don't worry, I am not speaking about Ashtakaliya Leela today. But I'll speak about some sweet pastimes of Sri Vrindavan. I have to serve some Shikharinis today. What is Sikharini? Srila Rupa Gosvami had explained the concept of Sikharini, and this Sikharini is basically a very cooling drink which is offered to somebody who is walking for long on the pathways of material world. Sri Rupa Goswami says this Sikharini is fragrant due to the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. And the verse which he composes to explain Sikharini is this. We read this verse yesterday. This verse is also in the meter Sikharini. So the meter of the verse is also Sikharini. So he has composed a verse in the meter Sikharini explaining the term Sikharini, and in future he will be serving Shikharinis to all of you, dear devotees. So that is what Sri Rupa Goswami has done. I hope all of you are eager to drink some Shikharinis from the ears. Yes? All right. It may be a little intoxicating and you may feel some happiness in the heart. Bestowing happiness is my guarantee that I take upon myself. I have that confidence because I know that I am standing on the shoulders of giants. Sri Rupa Goswami is devotee poet par excellence, and based on his strength, I am claiming that these Shikharinis will make your life joyous. They are an insight into what is artha pravritti, what is the true positive cultivation in one's Krishna bhajan, in one's seva. But dear devotees, Sri Rupa Goswami may be a poet par excellence, but still all of you may be doubtful that the person who is presenting his realizations is nowhere compared to the original author. So I agree that I am nowhere compared to Sri Rupa Goswami, that I am simply a crow in front of him. Therefore I am wearing black clothes today, dear devotees. But although I am a crow, I will confidently speak, dear devotees. I will speak confidently. There is a reason for me speaking confidently today. Would you like to hear the reason, dear devotees? So, this is the reason, dear devotees, for me speaking confidently. Because although I am unqualified, I still have one confidence. This is a very sweet verse in a very rare Gaudiya Vaishnava text called Amod Mahakavyam. This was written by a Gaudiya Vaishnava named Sri Anup Narayan Bhatta. And he composes a beautiful verse in the same meter, Sikharini. I will sing it, dear devotees, kindly repeat after me. Alright, we have to chant and be happy. So if we chant, we'll be happy, dear devotees. Kindly repeat after me. Kime tamadvaktraniraguriti grani tanabudha. Kime tamadvaktraniraguriti grani tanabudha. Nibaddha Shri Radha Vraja Vidhu Gunamredan Sudha. Jagannatha Kshetrodbhava Bhava Mahamoha Shamaka. Prasadam kakasyad galitamapi Vishnu styajatika. Kim eta madvaktran niragur. It is coming from my mouth, dear devotees. This is Hari Parshad Das, one of the most unqualified person, but he is speaking some of the most qualified topics. So it is coming from my mouth. Will all the intelligent souls not hear it just because an unqualified person is speaking it? No, all of you should definitely hear it. There is a reason. What is the reason? Nibaddha, these are beautiful pastimes. Shri Radha Vraja Vidhu, of Shri Radha and the moon of Vrindavan. Gunam Redana, repetitions of their beautiful qualities. And Sudha, very nectarian. So what? Still, it doesn't change the fact that the speaker is unqualified. So please hear a beautiful analogy. Jagannatha Kshetrod Bhava Bhava. There is something which is very famous in Jagannath Puri. What is the most famous thing about Jagannath Puri, dear devotees? Mahaprasad. Now this Mahaprasad, Kakasyad Galitamapi. Even if Mahaprasad of Jagannath falls from the mouth of a crow, will all of you eat it? Yes or no? So this pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna are Jagannath Mahaprasad. Even if it has fallen from the mouth of a crow, dear devotees, I am confident that all of you will still honor it. This is the translation, Sri Prahlad Prabhu. Kindly read.
Just because these verses containing nectarian repetitions of the divine qualities of Sri Radha Krishna have come from the mouth of a lowly soul such as myself, will the learned souls not hear them? They will certainly listen to these repetitions. Which saintly soul will avoid consuming Jagannath's Mahaprasad, even if such Mahaprasad has fallen from the mouth of a crow? Indeed, such Mahaprasad is fully capable of destroying the great illusion of material existence.
So dear devotees, with this mood, I am trying to present some Shikharinis of Sri Rupa Goswami and the other Acharyas. Still, in order to make our listening experience the safest, we should do something. And I would really like to thank the devotees who have decorated this entire, they have made a bhajan kutir real. So I'm not sure who's the devotee who decorated this, but Wonderful, Mataji. Thank you so much for all your efforts, because this is really like a bhajan kutir, and Sri Rupa Goswami is right here, dear devotees, and he is writing about the pastimes of Radha Vrajavidhu. And dear devotees, in the bhajan kutir, he is writing for the pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So dear devotees, the bhajan kutir, the door has slightly opened and a crow is listening, all right? And he is speaking out to you what Sri Rupa Goswami wrote. Now dear devotees, whatever happiness you feel in your mind, dedicate all that happiness to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let us hear all these Sikharinis, and whatever joy we feel, let us dedicate it to the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is not for personal pleasure. All of us are here so that we can contribute to the joy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With this mood, we will begin relishing our Sikharinis, dear devotees. So, I begin with the first verse, and this first verse is about Shri Krishna. Our story begins in Dwarka, because in Dwarka, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, after he left Vrindavan and went to Mathura, and from Mathura he went to Dwarka. So in Mathura there was some hope that he will return back to Sri Vrindavan. But in Dwarka, that hope has become extremely feeble. And Shri Krishna thought that when I go to Dwarka, these Vrajavasis will cry in separation from me. But dear devotees, those of us who have fallen in love in our lives know that in love, does one person cry or both people have to cry? How many of us have fallen in love? See, they're all devotees, nobody falls in love. Right? And in our loving relationships, how many of us have cried? Yes, we've all cried. So in a loving relationship, both people have to cry. Crying is an essential part of a loving relationship. So Krishna was thinking that when I go to Dwaraka, these Vrajavasis will cry out of separation. Little did he know that crying is both ways. Sri Rupa Goswami, in the Padyavali, he expresses the sentiment of Sri Krishna when he was in Dwaraka. This verse describes the condition of Sri Krishna. Can you see, dear devotees? Is there any sadness for Krishna in Dwaraka? All the queens are serving him. Just one command and all his desires will be fulfilled. It appears externally that nothing is lacking in Dwaraka. But still Sri Krishna is crying in Dwaraka. And there is a big reason for that. And Sri Rupa Goswami expresses this verse in the Padyavali. This verse is in the meter Shardula Vikriditam, same tune as Shad Goswami Ashtakam. I'll try to sing it. Dear devotees, kindly repeat after me. Tambulam swamukardha charvitamita ko me mukhe nikshiped. Tambulam swamukardha charvitamita ko me mukhe nikshiped. Dunmarga prasritam cha chatu vachanai ko mam vashe sthapayet. Dunmarga prasritam cha chatu vachanai ko mam vashe sthapayet. Eyehi dividur sarita bhuja swanke nidhayadhuna. केलिस्रस्तशिखण्डकं मम पुनर्व्याधूय बध्नातु का. Shri Krishna is in Dwarka, but his mind runs to Sri Vrindavan. He remembers Mother Yashoda and he thinks, Tambulam. Does anybody know what is the meaning of Tambulam? betel leaf, pan. He says, Tambulam, this pan, swamukhartha charvitam. Mother Yashoda used to bite half of it and give me the remaining half directly in my mouth. Is there anybody here today in Dwaraka who will give me that same half chewed betel nut? Dear devotees, anybody can dare to do that with the king of Dwaraka? No. Ko me mukhe nikshipet. Today who will give me that sweet? Because that betel nut which is half chewed becomes sweeter, dear devotee. It is sweeter in taste. Unmarga prasritam. And today if I walk on an incorrect path of life, who will correct me? Previously when I was in Vrindavan, I used to, commit many activities which were not correct. I used to steal. So Mother Yashoda would tell me, Krishna, it is not good to steal. Today, if I commit any activity which is incorrect, people start glorifying that activity. This is the same Acharya of Bhagavad Gita who says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yuddhe chapi apalayanam. A Kshatriya should never show his back in battle. And when Kal Yavan came, what did Krishna do? Ran away. And what did the devotees do? They celebrated it. Wow, now I have a cult around me in Dwarka. They are all celebrating even my incorrect activities. Who will correct me today? See, Bhagavan also needs Vrindavan in order to be corrected in life. It's a very important thing. Corrections are not possible outside Vrindavan. Don't try correcting Narsimhadev. That might be the final correction of your life. So, it's only possible in Sri Vrindavan. Then he thinks, Ehi ehi ti vidura sarita bhuja. Mother Yashoda used to call Ehi Ehi with open arms. Ehi Ehi. And Swanke Nidhaya, she used to make me sit on her lap. Today, is there anybody who can do this in Dwarka? Nobody. If somebody calls me out, Ehi Ehi, come here, and makes me sit on their lap, the soldiers will ensure that he doesn't see the next day. Keli srasta shikhandakam. And my peacock feather used to get dislocated from its place due to playing a lot. Today there is no opportunity for playing here. All the peacock feathers are in perfect arrangement in Dwarka. I still long for that imperfection of Sri Vrindavan, dear devotees. So please tell me, who lost out, the Vrajavasis or Krishna? No. Who was the bigger loser? Speak loudly.
Krishna.
Right. So, dear devotees, Shri Krishna is the one who had the bigger loss. Because there is a reason, logically I'll prove it. All the Vrajavasis had to cry only for how many person? One. But Krishna has to cry for how many people? All the Vrajavasis. So whose loss is greater? Krishna. So dear devotees, this is what happened in Sri Dwaraka. This is the translation. Sri Prahlad Prabhu, kindly read.
Now who will take half-chewed betel nuts from her own mouth and place them in mine? Now who will subdue me with sweet words when I depart from the path of righteousness? Now who will say, come here, wave her arm, place me on her lap, and retie my peacock feather when it falls due to playing around in grudge?
Yeah. Now there is no playing around. So, dear devotees, Krishna's mind runs to Sri Vrindavan. And Krishna begins thinking, how nice were the days in Sri Vrindavan. Krishna reminisces the days in Vrindavan. Dear devotees, does anybody know what is the meaning of reminiscing?
Remember fondly.
Remember. Fondly. That's very important. To remember fondly. I'll give you an example of reminiscence. Do all of you want to reminisce something? Yes? So, dear devotees, do all of you remember when you were in school? And do you remember the final exam just before the summer vacation? Yes? Can you see yourself writing the final answer of that final exam just before the summer vacations. Prabhu, your good name? Hari Vyasdev, Prabhu. Prabhu, after you wrote the final answer, how would you feel?
Really ecstatic.
Oh, wow. And then you would come home and throw away your bag in a place where it cannot be found for the next month. So we are not remembering, we are reminiscing. Remembrance with rasa is reminiscence. So, Shri Krishna's mind reminisces Shri Vrindavan. Because Shri Vrindavan is a perfect container for all the loving relationships that Shri Krishna has experienced in his life. Dear devotees, for any loving relationship, whether it is a friend, whether it is a lover, for all loving relationships, there are two important things that are needed. Can anybody tell me the two most important things needed for any successful relationship? Can you try, Prabhu? Two things needed for a successful relationship.
Some emotion must be there.
Some emotion, okay. Trust, efforts. All these answers are very good. Our acharyas have analyzed that the two most important things needed for a successful relationship are union and separation. Both things are needed for a good relationship. Because sometimes we think the relationship is so good, we should always stay united. But too much union spoils and sometimes destroys the relationship. So, for example, once again, if I ask Sri Prahlad Prabhu, you are my friend, right? Yes. Prabhu, I want to come and stay at your home. One condition, you have to be all the time with me and nobody else. So, 1 week is okay? See, he's not even saying yes. Prabhu, we are friends, right?
Yes, yes.
Ah. 1 month? You seem distressed, Prabhu. So if I keep extending this, the yes will turn into no. Constant union destroys a relationship. Therefore, it is important to add separation to the relationship in order to add flavor to that relationship. So, our prema, the love in the relationships, has been compared to a river. Dear devotees, all the loving relationships in Sri Vrindavan are flowing like a river. But a river, in order to flow nicely, needs two embankments or two banks. So these two banks are known as union and separation. And you can see there on the screen that the river of love flows from one embankment to the other. This is how the river flows. Now one side of the river is slightly yellowish. The trees are drying up because of separation. The other side is greenish. They have lit up due to union, dear devotees. So this is a wonderful river. There are two embankments of the river of love, union and separation. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loved to relish both embankments. Sri Rupa Gosvami loved to write poetry that would enhance the mood for relishing both embankments. So today we will be beginning our journey on this river of prema, and Sri Rupa Goswami is going to serve Sikharini after Sikharini in order to enhance our mood of both embankments. Our river begins on the embankment of separation. So we will begin on the embankment of separation. But Sri Rupa Goswami says, if somebody asks us, why is it needed to have both union and separation? Sri Rupa Goswami gives a very perfect answer in one of his literature. So Sri Rupa Goswami says both embankments are needed for love to happen. This is a verse which Sri Rupa Goswami quotes from a previous authority. And this verse is as follows. Na vina vipralambhena sambhogah pushtimashnute kashayite hi vastradau bhuyan rago vivardhate. Sri Rupa Goswami says, na vina vipralambhena, without separation, sambhogah na pushtim ashnute, union doesn't become very tasteful. It is important to have separation first in order for union to become tasteful. And he gives an analogy. He says, kashayite hi vastradau. If you want to color a white cloth, you take a white cloth, you want to color it. So previously they used to color it. And in order to color it, if you directly dip it in color, the cloth will have the color upon it. But there is a problem in that. As soon as you wash it, 80% of the color will be gone. So when we color a cloth, we want to ensure that the color stays permanently on the cloth. In Sanskrit, color is called rag. And love is also called raga. So there is a dual meaning here. Bhuyan raga vivardhate. Raga increases. Color increases, love increases when the chemical dye of separation is first applied upon it. So first you apply a chemical dye which fixes the color, and then you apply the color. And then when the color is applied, the color will not go away easily. So it's important to apply separation on a relationship before union occurs. And that is what will make the relationship the sweetest. This is the translation. Shri Prahlad Prabhu, kindly read.
Without separation, union does not attain nourishment. Color on the cloth becomes extremely brilliant only when the proper mordant dyes are applied to it.
So mordant dyes are very harsh chemicals. But still they need to be applied in order to fix the raga. One meaning of raga is color. Another meaning of raga is love. You can see here the image. Two cloths have been dyed. The cloth on the right hand side was the one which did not have a dye applied on it. And the cloth on the left hand side was the one which had a dye applied on it. And after washing both the cloths, the result is in front of us. So we want that brilliant dark bluish color in our cloth of love. Therefore it is important to apply the mordant dye, the harsh chemical of separation, before we apply the color of union upon it. So beautiful analogy by Sri Rupa Goswami in his literature. So our river begins on the embankment of union or separation? Separation. Sri Radha and Krishna, when they appeared on this planet, both of them appeared in different places. There was not much union except for one day when, on the appearance of Srimati Radharani, Sri Krishna came and held her hand once. After that day, they did not meet much often. Gradually, they are growing up. And when they are growing up, the first stage of separation occurs in their life. This stage, Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, they have given it a technical name. I will speak the technical name. All of you kindly repeat after me. This first stage of separation is called Purvarag. What is Purvarag? Purvarag is the first stage of separation that occurs between Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna. Now, we will have a definition of Purvarag by Srila Prabhupada himself. So, Srila Prabhupada defines Purvarag in his commentary to Chaitanya Charitamritam. Here is Srila Prabhupada giving the definition in a purport. Ratirya sangamat purvam darshana shravanadija tayorunmilati pragyai purvaragah sa uchyate. Shri Prahlad Prabhu.
When attachment produced in the lover and beloved before their meeting by seeing, hearing, and so on becomes very palpable by the mixture of four ingredients such as vibhava and anubhava. This is called purvara.
Oh, so these many technical terms are introduced. Yeah? Let's make it easy, dear devotees, so that we can understand what it is. Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna are growing up. Gradually they start having attraction for each other, but they cannot freely speak to each other. What is the reason? The society. It doesn't allow them to freely speak to each other. The society has placed restrictions on both of them meeting each other. In general, the girls who are growing up, they cannot speak to a stranger just like that. But still that attraction is there in both of their hearts. Now, in today's society, Purva Rag has been almost completely destroyed. In the material world also, there is a perverted reflection of Purva Rag. So when boys and girls grow up, the first attraction that they have towards each other in the material world is also known as Purva Rag. But its origin is in the spiritual world between Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna. But in today's world, when they start growing up, they make a profile on Facebook or Instagram. And if somebody is interested in somebody, they just go on that website and they look up. And in 10 minutes, they see what are the likes, what are the dislikes. And after 10 minutes, even without meeting the person, they have decided, no, I don't like this person. So today's society has destroyed Purva Rag to such a degree that people don't have the opportunity to experience these emotions that were previously experienced by many individuals who belong to the previous generations when Facebook was not there. So Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna are experiencing this. Shri Jiva Goswami in the Gopal Champu further gives a detailed explanation of what is Purva Rag. And this is what Shri Jiva Goswami says. That this Purva Rag is nothing but Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna's love in separation from each other. Dear devotees, Purva Rag is a stage of union or separation? Separation. Because they can't freely speak to each other. So Shri Jiva Goswami says, this verse is also in the meter Sikharini. Prasange chaviksha sprihitamanushanga vilashitam. Shanga vilashitam. Prithag lokadvesha pratisamayam udvega kalana. Ime bhava yugme yugapaduditastat kramavasha. Aho durastityorapi dayitayore karuchita. Here the explanation of Sri Jiva Goswami. Prasangecha, the desire to meet secretly. It is there. Viksha sprihitam, the desire to glance, but you can't glance freely. You know what will happen if you glance freely? If you start glancing freely at that person, then the other person will come to know, oh my goodness, this person is interested in me. So that desire is there, but it cannot be fulfilled. Anushanga bhilashitam, the desire to associate and speak with each other. Prithag loka dvesha, there are some enemies who are not favorable to, both of them meeting. Dvesha, exhibiting disdain for such people. Prati samayam, and always udvega kalana, always sighing in the heart. Sri Jiva Goswami says, Ime bhava yugme, all these feelings in both of these individuals. Which two individuals? Sri Radha and Krishna. Yugapad uditas. Simultaneously all these feelings arose. Why did they arise? Krama vashad. Both of them were gradually growing up. Aho, how wonderful. Durasthityorapi. Two people who are located so far away are having the exact same emotions. Never before has it happened. Because two people who are situated far away from each other usually don't share emotions so easily. So Sri Jiva Goswami says, for the first time, these two people are having shared emotions, and this is the cause of great wonder. Now, dear devotees, this is the first stage of our separation. Does anybody remember the technical name? Purva Rag. All right. Now, henceforth, we will remember. All right. So, Purva Rag. Now, Sri Rupa Goswami composes a beautiful verse about Purva Rag. This verse is in the Padyavali. I will specify this verse. And dear devotees, this is Purva Rag in Shri Krishna. One fine day, Shri Krishna is on the banks of the Yamuna. And as usual, Shri Krishna has a beautiful pleasure in his life. The Italians, they have something, the pleasure of doing nothing. Right? In Italy, they say, we have the pleasure of doing nothing. Right? So the Italians often, they say, one of the best pleasures in life is the pleasure of doing nothing. All right? So Shri Krishna has the pleasure of doing nothing in Sri Vrindavan. He's standing underneath a Kadamba tree. On the banks of Yamuna, he is playing his flute. Suddenly he sees from the corner of his eyes that somebody is walking on the same pathways. Somebody is coming in this direction. Dear devotees, who is coming in this direction? Sri Radha. All of you know? You are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Huh? All of you know? Srimati Radharani is coming in that direction. Now our Krishna starts experiencing some emotions within his heart. Because this is Purva Rag, Krishna is nervous, dear devotees. Krishna's nervousness is described in a beautiful verse by Sri Rupa Goswami. So would you like to hear about the nervous God in Sri Vrindavan, dear devotees? Alright, so dear devotees, here is the verse. This verse is in the meter Shardula Vikriditam, same as Shad Goswami Ashtakam. I'll sing it, kindly repeat after me. Sveda plavita pani padma mukula prakranta kampodaya. Visrastam vijanato muralikam padarvindo pari. Leela valgita ballavi kavalita svantasya vrindavane. Jiyat kamsari postri bhanga vapusha shunyodaya phutkriti. Jiyat kamsari postri bhanga vapusha shunyodaya phutkriti. So dear devotees, as I said yesterday, each verse is like a painting. You have to bring a blank canvas for every verse. And we will try to paint a painting and hang these paintings on the walls of your hearts. Because if even one of these paintings comes in front of the eyes of the heart at the final and most crucial moment of our death, and then when we close our eyes, the next time we open our eyes, we will be in Sri Vrindavan, dear devotees. There's a reason why these paintings have been drawn by the previous acharyas. Each and every one of this verse went through the lotus ears of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, personally approved by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the verses in the Padyavali. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has heard and relished all these verses. And we are accepting Uchishta. Uchishta means remnants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, coming back to the topic, our Bhagavan in Sri Vrindavan is very confident, playing his flute under the Kadamba tree. Suddenly he sees Srimati Radharani is coming. Sri Rupa Goswami says, Sveda plavita pani padma. Suddenly his hands, they start shivering, dear devotees. And there is Sveda, there is sweating in his hands. Prakranta kampa, the hands start sweating out of nervousness. He's the same Acharya of the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna, this morning we were, Arjuna was saying, my hands are, shivering. The Gandiva bow is falling from my hand. It's the same person who said, Arjuna, Klaibyam masma gamha partha nai tattva yupapadyate shudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktva tishta parantam. Oh Arjun, give up this feeble weakness of heart and arise. We have a very sweet Acharya who doesn't follow what he preaches. So, Sveda plavita, his hands are sweating. Prakranta kampodayat, and there is shivering. Visrastam, out of shivering, the flute suddenly fell from his hand. Avijanato, blissfully unaware that the flute has fallen from his hand. Where has the flute fallen? Padarvindo pari, it has fallen on his feet, dear devotees. Now, why did all of this happen? Sri Rupa Goswami says, Leela Valgita Ballavi. There was a Ballavi Gopi who was coming, Leela Valgita, who was swaying to and fro, and she was coming his way. So what happened because of that? Kavalita Swantasya, his Swanta, his heart became weak. In Sri Vrindavane. Then Sri Rupa Goswami is also expert. He also passes a sarcastic remark on Sri Krishna in the final line. Jiyat Kamsa repose. All glories to the enemy of Kamsa. He who did not display any of these symptoms even in front of Kamsa, perspiring, shivering of hands, weapons falling from hand, none of these symptoms appeared in front of Kamsa. But these symptoms appeared in front of one individual, dear devotees, Srimati Radharani. So all glories to the enemy of Kamsa. Tribhanga Vapusha, because even in that state, he has forgotten that the flute is not there in his hand, but he wants to give a very good first impression. So he tries to play the flute, and what happens? Shunyodaya Phut. Zeroness comes from his mouth and increases the bliss of all of you, dear devotees. So all glories to that enemy of Kamsa, who often fails in his love attempts in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Are you feeling little intoxicated? Yeah? It's important to drink. It's very important to drink. Because, for 20 years I was told, no intoxication, no intoxication. So, what is a life without intoxication? It's not worth living. Yeah? So we should have some strong intoxication, which will replace, has some positive replacement for us. So we should feel intoxicated, dear devotees. So this is what happened at that point of time. Now, Srimati Radharani is also experiencing Purva Rag. So Sri Rupa Goswami will also describe Purva Rag from Srimati Radharani's point of view. So this is the translation, Prabhu. Please read.
The gracefully moving gopis captured Lord Krishna's heart. His hands perspired and trembled. Lord Krishna, whose form was bent in 3 places, was unaware that the flute had dropped from his lotus bud-like hands and had fallen to his lotus feet. He began to blow into what he thought was his flute, but no sound emerged. All glories to that emptiness blowing from the mouth of Lord Krishna.
Yeah. Now, you can see what has happened there, dear devotees. So this is emptiness blowing from the mouth of Lord Krishna. The flute has fallen at his lotus feet. Moving ahead, Srimati Radharani was also experiencing the same emotion within her heart. This is Purva Rag in the heart of Srimati Radharani. Sri Rupa Goswami composes another verse to explain this emotion of separation in the heart of Srimati Radharani. So this is the verse which Sri Rupa Goswami composes. This verse is in the meter Sikharini. Now, can we sing together, dear devotees? Yes? Will you try to sing with me this time? All right? Let's sing like drunkards. All right? Huh? All right. Puro nilajyotsna tadanu mriganabhi parimalas tato lila venu kvanitamanu kanchi kalarava tado vidyudvalli valaita chamatkar lahari tarangalavanyam tadanu sahajananda udaga. Srimati Radharani, she later described to her friend Sakhi. Who was that Sakhi? Sri Rupa Manjari. That's why she is able to, compile these verses. So she described to her Sakhi later. That day something happened. So Sakhi is very close friend. She said, what happened? So I was walking innocently on the banks of the Yamuna. I was walking in that direction. Suddenly something happened. Puro nila jyotsna. At a distance, I saw a brilliant bluish light. Dear devotees, would you like to see a brilliant bluish light in the far distance? This is what she saw, dear devotees. So in the distance, I saw a brilliant bluish light. I am an innocent girl. I started following that. Tadanu, thereafter, when I approached that light, Mriganabhi parimala, there was a fragrance which entered into my senses. What was the fragrance? Mriganabhi, deer musk. Wow, I was further attracted. I started walking further. Tato lila venu, when I went further, there was lila venu, sweet flute playing. And I went further. Anu kanchi kalarava. And then there was this ankle bell which was tinkling very sweetly. And when I went further, tato vidyut valli valaita chamatkar lahari. I was most attracted by this form. I saw that there was a brilliant dark rain cloud along with a flash of lightning. But when you see a normal rain cloud, the flash of lightning, it stays only for a small moment. Here the flash of lightning as if had become still and stable. So the dark cloud is Sri Krishna and his clothes are like the flash of lightning. So I saw a dark cloud encircled by a flash of lightning. Tarangal lavanyam. From each and every body part there was lavanya coming out. What is lavanya? It's a technical term again. Sri Rupa Gosvami says, when from each and every body part of an individual there is wavy radiance coming out, which attracts all the senses of an individual. That wavy radiance coming out from each and every limb of an individual is known as lavanya. Sometimes we translate it as beauty. But beauty is a very rough translation of lavanya. And she said, Tad anu sahaj ananda udagat. And when I looked at him, I was looking from a corner. Sahaj ananda. I was so naturally happy. But that person was very crooked. Suddenly he did something. What did he do? I was happily looking from a corner. Suddenly he gave a crooked sidelong glance, indicating that I have seen you. And I ran away from there. So he did not allow me to have my happiness for long, dear devotees. So, dear devotees, this is what happened at that point of time. This is the translation, Sri Prahlad Prabhu.
Dear Saki, first I saw splendid blue effulgence, and I smelled the fragrance of deer musk. Then I heard playful flute music. Then I heard the sweet tinkling of satchel bells. Then I saw waves of wonderful handsomeness encircled by a stationary lightning flash. As a result of this, I experienced immersed natural bliss within myself.
Now, this is what the verse says. Now, there is something hidden in the verse. When the poet writes something which appears externally beautiful, but there is deep inner beauty hidden in the verse, that is called as dhvani. Dhvani means what is the poetry suggesting. Let me give a simple example of what dhvani is. For example, Prabhu, if I make a simple English statement, the school bell rang. What is the direct meaning of the statement?
There was a ring sound in the school.
Yeah, there was the school bell rang. That's the direct meaning. What is the indicated meaning of the statement? It's time to go home. So I hope all of you are able to understand what is indicated meaning in the poetry. So that indicated meaning is known as dhvani. Dhvani is the life air of poetry. Even in this verse, there is something hidden. A deep dhvani is hidden within this poetry. And what is that dhvani? The dhvani is that there are some hunters who capture their prey through eyesight. There are some hunters who capture their prey through the ear. There are some hunters who capture their prey through the sense of smell. But there is one hunter who captures through all the senses simultaneously in Sri Vrindavan, dear devotees. And the second dhvani is, when a hunter catches his prey, the prey feels immense distress because of being caught. But this is the first hunter, after being caught in his net, Sahaj Ananda Udagat, the prey feels immense happiness within their heart, dear devotees. How many of us would like to be caught by this particular hunter of Sri Vrindavan? Right? So this is Sahaj Ananda. So this is Purvarag in Srimati Radharani. Now, she wanted to meet and he also wanted to meet, but nobody is having the courage to go and speak to each other. So this reaches a boiling point first in Srimati Radharani. So Srimati Radharani, she is so eager to meet him that one day she does something completely out of the way. But before we go there, Sri Jiva Goswami has a comment upon this verse. And Sri Jiva Goswami's comment upon this verse is very beautiful. This is what Sri Jiva Goswami says. Krishnasyanatra drikpranta sadbhi shastra phalam smritam hantatasu punah soyam ebhi shastra phalam matam. Sri Jiva Goswami says, Krishnasya anyatra drikpranta. If Krishna would give his sidelong glance on anybody else in this world, Prabhuji, if today Krishna appears and gives you a sidelong glance, would you like to have a sidelong glance of Sri Krishna? Yes, he wants to have. Sadbhihi, all the sadhus will say, Shastra phalam, you achieved the one pointed end of all the shastras. Will all the sadhus say yes? Yeah. Hanta, alas. But when the same sidelong glance falls on Srimati Radharani, the sadhus don't say Shastra phalam. The sadhus say Shastra phalam. It is the one-pointed tip of a sharp weapon, dear devotees. So that which is Shastra phalam, the one-pointed end of all Vedic literature, for everybody else in the world, that same sidelong glance becomes Shastra phalam, the pointed end of an arrow for all the gopis of Sri Vrindavan, dear devotees. You can see the effect of the pointed end of an arrow on Srimati Radharani. Sri Prahlad Prabhu, kindly read.
A single sidelong glance of Krishna on any other person in the world is considered to be the sweet attainment of the one-pointed end of all shastras. However, the same sidelong glance on the gopis is considered by them to be the painful attainment of the one-pointed end of shastras.
Right. So this is Sri Jiva Goswami at his best, in Sri Gopal Champu describing Purvarag. Dear devotees, all these verses were written for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, so that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas could relish. If the Gaudiya Vaishnavas don't relish these verses, then some professor, PhD from a university will end up studying this literature, and then he will say, Rupa Goswami, a Hindu philosopher from the cult of Chaitanya, the emotional devotee 500 years ago, wrote a book named Padyavali for the sentimental devotees of Braj. Should such people read Padyavali or should the devotees read Padyavali? Devotees read Padyavali. It's meant for all of us. So this is the reason why Sri Rupa Goswami wrote all these verses for the devotees. And we are reading, any joy that you experience in the heart, please offer it to one personality. To which personality? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Dedicate all that joy to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and everything will be 100% successful. Now Srimati Radharani's heart has reached a tipping point that she cannot tolerate any further. Unless something drastically changes, things will not move ahead. So Sri Rupa Goswami composes a verse in the Padyavali where Srimati Radharani, she comes out in the middle of a night. This night is the night of Chaturthi. Chaturthi is the fourth day of the bright fortnight. But this Chaturthi is a special Chaturthi. This Chaturthi is the Chaturthi of the month of Bhadrapad. And then she says something while looking at the moon. What she says is described in the verse. This verse is in the meter Vasanta Tilakam, same tune as Brahma Samhita. I'll try to sing. Kindly sing after me. ताराभिसारक चतुर्थ निशा शशांक कामाम्बुराशि परिवर्धन देव तुभ्यम् अर्घो नमो भवतु मे सहतेन यूना मिथ्यापवाद वचसाप्यभिमान सिद्धि So she has come out on the fourth night of the bright fortnight of the month of Bhadrapad. This is also known as Ganesh Chaturthi. On this night it is forbidden to see the moon, because it is said in Shastra that anybody who sees the moon on this night gets tremendous ill reputation in their fortune. Their character becomes assassinated by the society. Short and sweet, one should not have Chandra Darshan of the moon on this night. Our Srimati Radharani knows all this. She has come out in the night. And not only is she not looking at the moon, she is looking at the moon and saying something to the moon. What is she saying to the moon? Tara Abhisarak. O Abhisarak, O lover of Tara. One meaning of Tara is stars. So the moon is the lover of the stars. Tara is also the name of a gopi. O lover of Tara. So she sees Krishna in the moon also. Tara Abhisaraka, O lover of Taras, O moon. Chaturtha Nisha Shashanka, O Shashanka, O moon of the fourth night. Moon will say, what are you doing here? Come on any other night and ask what you want. Why have you come on this most inauspicious of all nights? Nobody should see me on this night. So Srimati Radharani says, I want to come specifically on this night. And not only that, I want to offer you water. Argho Namo. I offer you water. Takes this gift from me. Why? Kamambu Rashi Parivardhana. You have increased the ocean of separation in my heart. Take this offering of water from me. Moon says, today I can only give you one thing. That is bad reputation in your character. All right. Argho Namo. Take this water as a gift and please give me that bad reputation. By which, Me Sahatena Yuna, everywhere in Vrindavan there will be rumors that the daughter of Maharaj Vrishabhanu and the son of Nanda Maharaj are having a secret affair with each other. Let this rumor spread everywhere in Vrindavan. So finally, all this separation will be over and Krishna will come and speak to me. Abhiman Siddhi, my desire will finally be realized. So this is where it reaches a tipping point. This is Srimati Radharani looking at the moon and praying, Sometimes I don't have exact paintings, but I try to get approximate ones, because for each of these verses we can draw a separate painting, but I am not an artist, I just know how to sing some of these verses. So Prabhu, kindly read the translation.
O husband of the stars, O moon arising on the fourth night, the bright fortnight of the Bhadrapad month, O augmenter of the ocean of romantic desires, I offer oblation waters unto you, so that rumors of my love affairs with the young Krishna may spread around, and through such rumors I may attain the fulfillment of my desires.
So Krishna is listening to all this. Dear devotees, we are on which embankment right now? Krishna arranges that we move to the embankment of union. In a few days, Krishna carries out a beautiful pastime in which all the gopas and gopis are able to freely look at Krishna. Krishna lifts the Govardhan hill. And when Krishna lifts the Govardhan hill, all the gopas and gopis gather around him. Now they can glance at his face as much as they want, because such a big thing is happening. He's lifting the Govardhan hill, and who would not want to look at that, right? So that is what happened after that. And you can see this. Krishna is lifting the Govardhan hill on his left hand, and Srimati Radharani is just next to him. She is continuously glancing at Krishna's face. Suddenly, another gopi comes from behind and tries to play a joke upon Srimati Radharani. So, we have now successfully entered into which embankment? Union. Now, a gopi tries to play a joke on Srimati Radharani. This joke is described by Srila Rupa Gosvami. This joke is as follows. This verse is in the meter Shardula Vikriditam, Stema Shad Goswami Ashtakam. Can we sing together, dear devotees? Yes. Okay. Duram drishti pathatiro bhava hare govardhanam vibratas tvaya sakta drisha krishodari kara srastosya mabhudayam gopinamiti jalpitam kalayato Radha nirodhashrayam Shwasa shaila bharashrama brahmakara Kamsa dvisha pantuva. Srimati Radharani is standing right there next to Sri Krishna. She is gazing at the face of Sri Krishna continuously. Suddenly a gopi comes from behind and says, Duram drishti pathat, get out of here. Tirobhava. You know what is Tirobhava? Disappear. Disappearance day is known as Tirobhava. Tirobhava. Disappear from here. Why? Can't you see? Hare. Hari is doing something big. What is he doing? Govardhanam bibratas. He is lifting the Govardhan hill on his left hand. So what? Tvaya sakta drisha. You are glancing in his eyes, and he will glance in your eyes. And suddenly something may happen. The hill may suddenly fall from his hand. Kara srasto, it may fall from his hand. Ma bhudayam, let it not be. Get out of here. So, Sri Rupa Goswami says, Gopi namiti jalpitam. The gopis were thus doing prajalpa. Right underneath Sri Govardhan. So there is prajalpa in the spiritual world, dear devotees. So Gopi namiti jalpitam kalayato. Somebody was hearing this prajalpa. Who was hearing this prajalpa? Shri Krishna heard this prajalpa. And what was the prajalpa about? Radha nirodhashrayam. That Srimati Radharani is being taken away from me. Now Srimati Radharani, as soon as she turned back and started walking, our Krishna did something. Shwasa. Oh, it's very heavy now. Then they say, oh, no, you come right here, Srimati Radharani. You stand right here. I think because of looking at you, he is deriving continuous energy. So Sri Rupa Goswami says, Shwasa Shaila Bharashrama Brahmakara. Suddenly, Kamsa Dvisha, our enemy of Kamsa. Again sarcastic comment. Our enemy of Kamsa, who usually never sighs out of, fatigue. Suddenly he started sighing out of fatigue. And his sighing ensured that Srimati Radharani comes back in the same place so that he is able to glance at her. So may those sighs of Sri Krishna protect all of you, dear devotees. Now question arises, how can the sighs of Sri Krishna protect all of us? How can the breathing of Sri Krishna protect all of us? So many times we will hear in verses, may the arms of Krishna protect you, may the legs of Krishna protect you, may the eyes of Krishna protect you. But how will they protect us? So the answer is, when we most need the help of these legs, these arms, that is at the final moment of our life. And when we are breathing our last, when all the senses have stopped working, when the eyes are not working, although people are showing us a photograph of Krishna, the eyes are not working. People may be chanting, but the ears are not working. Finally, one sense is working, that is smaran, remembrance within the heart. At that most crucial moment, may this breathing of Krishna appear in front of the vision of your heart and protect you at that most crucial moment, dear devotees. So may this heavy breathing of Sri Krishna protect you when you most need it in your lives, that is at the final moment. Because once you meditate upon this at the final moment of your life, next time you open your eyes, you will be in that same pastime with Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So dear devotees, this is the translation. Prabhu.
Please go far away from the path of Krishna's eyes. O slender girl, don't make Govardhan Hill fall from his hand because he is absorbed in gazing on you. When Krishna heard the gopis' words to stop Radha, he sighed and the hill began to slip from his hand. May those heavy sighs of Lord Krishna protect you all.
Right. So the verse doesn't say what happened after the sighing. So what happened is, you have to understand that they brought Srimati Radharani back in order to stay in front of him. So that is the dhvani, that is the indicated meaning behind the poetry. Dear devotees, I will pause my speech here because I want to leave you on the embankment of union. Alright? I don't want to leave you on the embankment of separation. So I would like to pause my speech here at this point of time. And tomorrow we will continue from this embankment, because Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, now they can freely speak to each other. Now the interactions will begin and the fun play between both of them will begin now. So tomorrow we will start discussing some of those verses. These verses were all personally heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, penned down by Sri Rupa Goswami, for the pleasure of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. When Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that this is our only asset, he meant for all of us, we gradually have to perform Artha Pravritti. Artha Pravritti means our mind should gradually start thinking about the positive. In the past 1.5 hours, I hope that some of us were able to successfully think about Artha Pravritti, what is the positive that we want to achieve in our lives. And I hope that this presentation helped you in that goal of Artha Pravritti. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wants each and every one of us to become a Rasika Vaishnava. He doesn't want to prevent us from all these topics. All he wants is that please follow faithfully in the footsteps of Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, and if we have attained a certain level of maturity, he also specified the time frame, 15 or 20 years, then a devotee should know all these topics. He was speaking about Ashtakaliya Leela. We are not going to do that here. We will only be doing some simple pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Krishna, but immense sweetness will be induced. I hope all of you found the Sikharinis intoxicating. Yes? So, yadatra skhalitam kinchid vidvam saha purayantu tat yadatra saushthavam kinchit tad gurorevam me nahi yadatra skhalitam kinchit. It is possible that I might have made a mistake while speaking, because I am a conditioned soul who has 4 defects. So if I have made any mistake, vidvam saha, you are all learned Vaishnavas, purayantu tat, you correct any mistakes that I have made. But yadatra saushthavam kinchit. If there's anything nice in the presentation, if you liked a single slide, a single verse, a single line, a single word, a single syllable, or even half a syllable, it doesn't get below that in Sanskrit grammar. If even you liked half a syllable, please remember, Tad Guroreva. It all belongs to my Guru Janas. My Diksha Guru, my Shiksha Gurus, all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, all the God brothers of Srila Prabhupada, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas from all the parivars of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who have been in the past, who are in the present, who will be in the future, including all of you who are also my Shiksha Gurus. It belongs to you. May nahi, it doesn't belong to me. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Would you like to?
I just have a brief question regarding the origin of Padyavali. I heard somewhere, and it is embedded as a faint scent in my memory, that once Mayavadi came before Govindaji and recited beautiful verses in praise of him. And afterwards, Rupa Goswami came to Govindaji and said, you seem to like it, but do you know his philosophical orientation? He's not. And then Govindaji, this is what I heard, answered, I like nice kavya poetry, and you should also do it. Have you heard something around it? Can this be authenticity, or what is the word?
Yeah, Sri Rupa Goswami, when he started writing Padyavali, in the first verse he describes how he came to write about it. In the first verse of Padyavali is Padyavali Virachita Rasikaihi. So he says that the Padyavali was originally created by many Rasikas. So Rasikai is plural. So by many Rasikas it was created. But this is Rupa Goswami's chocolate box of verses, basically, of different flavors. So Rupa Goswami collected his anthology of verses. He liked these verses. And often in Vrindavan they are called as Kim Vadantis. Kim Vadantis means, Kim Vadanti, who said it, we don't know. Like, this is called Kim Vadanti. Who said it, we don't know. So these Kim Vadantis are there in Sri Vrindavan, where a particular story is there around the creation of a certain literature. So there is a Kim Vadanti around Padyavali that there was an impersonalist who came and spoke many verses. And I have heard that it is a fact that in Sri Padyavali there are verses by many impersonalists. Sri Madhav Saraswati, Sri Lakshmidhar. But Sri Rupa Goswami had very high regard for their devotional sentiments, and therefore he included all of their verses in Sri Padyavali, because those verses don't have even a small tinge of the impersonal philosophy. So Sri Rupa Goswami had a Nirkshir Vivek, the discrimination of separating the milk from the water, or the milk from the poison, as we say. So he separated it out and he put it in the Padyavali. But in Sri Rupa Goswami's own words, this is his personal collection of verses from many authors, because he says in the first verse. But still, since there is a Kim Vadanti in Sri Vrindavan, so we respect that tradition also. And I have heard that, yes. But Sri Rupa Goswami's own personal version seems to say something otherwise. So that is my answer to this query. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Could you explain something more about this?
Oh, what is Lavanya? Okay. So, Sri Rupa Goswami explains Lavanya. Mukta phalasya chaya bhir ivantara. That mukta phala is pearl, and a pearl gives out wavy radiance. wavy radiance. Okay, a pearl gives out wavy radiance. Nowadays they advertise beauty products with radiance because they're not happy with beauty. So they want radiance in beauty products. So why do they want radiance in beauty products? Because beauty by itself is not so attractive. Beauty which reaches out to the eyes of the beholder is more attractive. Therefore, beauty needs to travel on a wave and reach the eyes of the person who is viewing it. So that beauty, Mukta Phalasya Chaya Bhir. So he says in Ujjwal Nilmani, he defines the term Lavanya, that a pearl, it gives out waves of radiance. And if such waves of pearl-like radiance are seen in Pratyanga, each and every limb of a certain person, then that beauty becomes known as Lavanya. So Shri Krishna sometimes takes a fresh bath in the Yamuna and his hair are all wet, his body just, freshly bathed in the Yamuna, and the gopis see the sunlight striking his body through the drops of water, and then they see Lavanya coming from his body. So that it happens with them frequently. So that is Lavanya. But unfortunately, much is lost in translation. So whenever Lavanya was translated, it was translated as beauty. So beauty is Saundarya. Saundarya is beauty. Lavanya is a different level of beauty. Just as Vamshi is translated as flute, Murli is translated as flute, Venu is translated as flute. But they are not all flutes, because not all flutes are the same. Similarly, Lavanya is different, Saundarya is different, Aujvalya is different. So there are different terms for beauty, and all these terms have to be studied by those who want to understand the poetry of Sri Rupa Goswami. So I hope I have satisfied your query. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Just start to feel intoxicated, and I'm thinking it would be nice to keep going even after the retreat. So what would you suggest for a person who has no understanding of Sanskrit at all, and how can that at all be relished and meditate upon on our own, just with the book, or is there like a way to do it so that we can keep receiving this type of inspiration?
Yes, so this question is frequently asked, that what should we do, after the retreat has ended, how should we continue this practice? So it is, as I said, this is a practice of drinking and becoming intoxicated. In order to learn how to drink, one has to first, make some arrangement that some drunkards will gather together. And when some drunkards will gather together, then you'll have a good time. See, drinking in loneliness is good, but I'm not saying out of experience, by the way. Drinking in loneliness is good. I have been told by the expert drunkards that drinking in loneliness is good, but it doesn't have the same effect as drinking in sajatiya, like-minded association, where you can share the pain in the heart. That is what drinking is for, Prabhu, for mutual sharing of pain in the heart. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has a lot of pain in his heart, and his devotees want to share that pain. So all the drunkards should sometimes get together, and then there should be one drunkard who is expert at singing and explaining. When that happens, then others relish. But then gradually we also get to know how to read and relish. Sanskrit is not the only language in which verses were written. Gaudiya Vaishnavas ensured that all the flavors of the love of Sri Radha and Krishna were also translated into Bengali poetry. There was a book named Vaishnav Padavali. It contains around 5,000 Bengali Vaishnav songs. So anybody who learns at least that one language, which is easy to learn in comparison to Sanskrit. So Vaishnav Padavali has 5,000 songs from all the authors, Sri Govinda Das, Sri Lochan Das, all the reputed authors, and all the padas that they wrote, Chandi Das, Vidyapati. So then in that you can read some of these padas and you can try to relish on your own. So Chandi Das writes beautiful about Purvarag. Elai aveni phulera gantuni dekhiya khashay chuli हसी तो बयाने चाहे चंद्रपाने की कहे दू हाथ तुली एक दिठी करी मयूर मयूरी कंठ करे निरीक्षणे चंडीदास का नव परिचय कालिया वधुर सने. Very sweet language actually. Elaiya Veni, she sits down, she is distressed, she is not able to meet Krishna. She sits down beside the Yamuna and opens her, her hair knots. Phulere ganthuni, the flowers fall out. Dekhiya khashaya chuli. Hasita bayane, suddenly she looks at the moon and starts smiling because she is experiencing some madness. Chahe chandra pane, she wants to drink the moon. Shri Krishna. Ki kahe du hath tuli, suddenly she lifts both her hands and starts blabbering something. Krishna appears there immediately. Eka dithi kari mayura mayuri. The peacock and the peahen suddenly glance at each other. Coded language is used here. Peacock is of which color, dear devotees? Multicolored, bluish. Peahen is of which color? White, golden. So the peacock and the peahen glance at each other. Chandidas says this is the first meeting of Kaliya with our Srimati Radharani. So one should be a singer, one should know how to relish these verses. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to relish. It's very easy. Artha Pravriti, it's not so difficult. You don't have to scrape your heart for years and years for Anartha Nivritti. It's very easy when the Artha Pravriti sets in. When it sets in, everything else will be forgotten. People will not, the devotees will see everywhere the pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna. That is the success of life. Su sukham kartum avyayam. It was so easy. It was so easy. I made it ku dukkham kartum avyayam. It was me who made it terribly difficult because of my mentality. I thought I had to beat myself into achieving love of Krishna. But it was not that. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, if there is a mango on the tree, it's unripe, kacha mango, there are two ways in which you can ripen it. First is you pluck it immediately and beat it using a stick. Second is, let it be exposed to natural sunlight and wait. Time is a very important factor in this. So let's get exposed to the natural sunlight of Sri Rupa Goswami's poetry and let's wait, because sometimes we are in a hurry. It takes time to develop a culture of poetry, devotional poetry, relishing these modes. And once you are into it, then there is no looking behind. But this is the way. Prabhupada used to say, when Prabhupada quoted that verse, Rupa Raghunath pade haibe akuti, kabe hama buja bose yugala piriti. That poetry is there in Bengali. Rupa Raghunath pade. What is the meaning of pade? What is feet? Srila Prabhupada translated it as pada also means poetry. Rupa Raghunath pade haibe akuti. When I will be attached to the pada, to the poetry of Sri Rupa and Raghunath, Padeyavali of Sri Rupa and Raghunath, tabe hama bujab, then I'll understand what is the secret behind Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna's pastimes. But we have to be very careful because in Sri Vrindavan there are many groups and we have to find Sajatiya group, somebody who is Bengali Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava. Bengali Vaishnava, I don't mean Bengal the state, I mean a Gaudiya Vaishnava, thorough Gaudiya Vaishnava in and out, because that Vaishnava carries the sweetness of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the entirety of India, Bengal is famous for one thing. For what? Sweets. The Vaishnava, Rasgulla. You won't find any Vaishnava, any place as sweet as Bengal. So the Vaishnavas are also very sweet there. So although there are many Vaishnavas in Sri Vrindavan, they are very respectable. But the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu want to find a Gaudiya Vaishnava. There are also Vaishnavas in Maharashtra. I am from Maharashtra. I'm from the western part of India. I happily say, in India I am a western devotee. So I'm a western devotee in India. But people from our side, they are not like the Bengalis. There's a big difference in nature. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions something about myself and my people. Would you like to see what Chaitanya Charitamrita says? Yes? So Chaitanya Charitamrita says something about people from Maharashtra, and this verse is about me. Paschimera loka saba mood anachar. So when I first read this, Paschimera loka, I thought people from the western world. No. It's not people from the western world. This is people from the western side of India. The person who is sitting on the asana here. Alright. This is the translation by Srila Prabhupada. The people in general on the western side of India were neither intelligent nor well behaved. Alright. So, see, I am mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's my 15 minutes of fame in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, but by the influence of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were trained in devotional service and good behavior. So, there are Vaishnavas everywhere in India, but specifically if you ask me, I am always seeking out that Gaudiya Vaishnava for relishing poetry. Very difficult to find, but once you find it, that's such an association. Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam, pay whatever price is needed to get such sangha. And once you are able to pay that price, that's it. The ticket is confirmed. All right. I hope I have answered your query to a certain degree of satisfaction. All right. Anybody else wants to ask? Yes. Yeah, he's bringing the mic. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, Harita. You mentioned very beautifully at the outset Anartha Nivritti and Artha Pravritti, which was so nice. And I was thinking how attraction to this wealth, Artha Pravritti, and although I am desirous of it, my Anartha Nivritti creates into me to endeavor for this wealth. And I was also thinking of how Srila Prabhupada often says how a devotee should be fearful of Maya. And sometimes I do find myself, if I'm conscious of it, so scared of not, I'm always in Maya, so to just be so scared of this. So how do I really endeavor to have, let's say, let's use the word balance between Artha Pravritti and Anartha Nivritti?
All right. So the query is that although Artha Pravritti has been emphasized, there is often the fear of Maya that occurs. So how do we balance? Actually, you can only try to balance it for some time. After some time, there won't be any balance. Either it is this way or that way. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur composes a verse in the Madhurya Kadambini. And this verse is very important. He says, Vishayavishta chittanam Vishnu aveshah suduratah Varuni diggatam vastu vrajan aindrim kim apnuyat. Vishayavishta chittanam, those whose minds are always thinking of material objects. Vishnu aveshah suduratah, for them spontaneous remembrance of Krishna will stay far away. Varuni diggatam vastu, if an object is lost in the west, vrajan aindrim kim apnuyat, can you find it in the east? No. So we have to make up our minds that are we going to spend most of our energy fighting Maya, or are we going to spend most of our energy building up our Artha Pravritti? Because a little bit of Artha Pravritti can immediately extinguish all effects of Maya. And this is not my speculation. Sri Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I will point out this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he says, Vishayeshu garishtopi ragah prayo viliyate. So I will share this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and where he says very clearly, yeah, ruchim udvahatas tatra janasya bhajane hare vishayeshu garishtopi ragah prayo viliyate. Ruchim, as soon as you attain the platform of ruchi, in what? Bhajane hare, in artha pravritti. As soon as you attain little bit of ruchi in that. So, ragah prayo viliyate. I'm not sure why this is not coming. I think.
Is it problem on your computer?
Let me try. I thought it was showing. So I'll simply quote the verse again. Sri Rupa Goswami says, Ruchim udvahatas tatra. Somebody who has ruchi for Sri Krishna bhajan, for him ragah prayo viliyate. His or her attachment towards the deepest of material desires is almost completely destroyed. He says almost, prayah. Commentators say, why almost? So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, almost because even in the stage of bhava, some material desires, a fraction of them may still remain. Complete 100% eradication is only on the stage of prema. So that is what is said by the commentators. So once we study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu scientifically with the commentaries, so no doubts will remain within our hearts what we have to do. I gave you the answer of what is needed. Artha pravritti should be cultivated by the devotee without any hesitation. This is what Srila Prabhupada also wanted from all of us. In the purport to Nectar of Instruction, 8th verse, Srila Prabhupada describes different dashas, Shravan dasha, Varan dasha, Smaran dasha, how the devotee should progress into Smaran. So that is all already described by Srila Prabhupada. And there Srila Prabhupada doesn't say that the devotee should remain afraid of Maya. There is no need for a devotee to remain afraid of Maya after the devotee has started cultivation of Artha Pravritti. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also said the same. Once Artha Pravritti has begun, Anartha Pravritti becomes secondary. So that was specified in the talk that I. Please do not hesitate. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even little bit of Artha Pravritti will save us from the biggest danger that Maya can pose in front of us. So I hope I have answered your query to some degree of satisfaction. Okay, anybody else? Gaur Hari Prabhu, I am dependent on you for the time. Okay, I am running an Indian Standard Time. All right. So you tell me when to stop. Tomorrow we'll have a verse about Indian Standard Time. All right. So, but anybody else wants to ask? Yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to say how beautiful is to see. I have no question. I'm just so inspired because I myself wrote poetry by the feelings of Radharani and Krishna described in that poetry, and also we know how Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also disposed these emotions. It's so, and meter is so perfect because the acharyas know how to write poetry.
Yes.
It's just amazing.
Thank you so much. I'm very honored. We have a poet in the assembly. Yes. One of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava is Kavi. That a Vaishnava is supposed to be a poet. And thank you for writing poetry. You are writing in which language?
Different kind of English, Malayalam.
Oh, English. Oh, very nice. So, she is writing poetry in different languages. And this is so nice. Your good name? Anuradha. So, Anuradha Devi, I think, she is doing a beautiful job. She is fulfilling one of the most important qualities of a Vaishnava, that is Kavi. She is Kavayitri. So, a lady is called as Kavayitri. She is Kavayitri. She is writing beautiful poetry. Thank you so much. Because it is important for all of us to either write poetry or relish poetry. It's one of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. Prabhu, I'll ask you a question. Okay, you have to answer in yes or no. Did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu write poetry?
Yes.
Did his disciple Sri Rupa Goswami write poetry?
Yes.
Did his disciple Sri Jiva Goswami write poetry? Did his disciple Sri Narottam Das Thakur write poetry? Did his follower Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur write poetry? Did his follower Sri Baldev Vidya Bhushan write poetry? Did his follower Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur write poetry? Did his follower Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur write poetry? Did his disciple Srila Prabhupada write poetry? Are we writing poetry? Oh, suddenly something stopped. So in every generation we were supposed to write poetry. Otherwise, we call ourselves movement. Prabhu, movement means things should move. Otherwise, after 50 years, we'll have to call ourselves Hare Krishna stagnant. So in every generation, we have to continuously write some poetry. So I also like to write poetry, some poetry from time to time. Today is not the occasion for showing that, but I like to write poetry from. Sometimes she writes in mixed languages. So I also sometimes like to write poetry in mixed languages. Half the verse in Sanskrit, half the verse in Hindi. So एकस्मिन् दिवसावसान समये मैं बाग में था खड़ा श्रुत्वा वेणुरवं तदन्वति मुदा मैं जोर से रो पड़ा घ्रात्वा कस्तूरिकामिह व्रजवने बेहोश मैं हो गया चित्त व्याध कुपाश अत्र तव में सर्वस्व ही खो गया. So I'll explain the meaning. एकस्मिन् दिवसावसान समये, one particular evening, मैं बाग में था. I was in Sri Vrindavan's forest. Shrutva Venuravam, hearing the flute sound, Tadanvati Muda, very happily, मैं जोर से रो पड़ा, I started crying out loudly. Ghatva kasturi kamiha, then I had the fragrance of deer musk. बेहोश मैं हो गया, I fainted. चित्त व्याध कुपाश अत्र तव में, O hunter of the heart, in your net, sarvasva hi kho gaya, I lost everything in my life. So in this way, little poetry, very nice. I would like to encourage all poets, please write more poetry. In this generation, let's enrich our generation with more and more new poetry. But first, let's study the Siddhanta of Sri Rupa Goswami. So we understand how to write poetry and what is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then after understanding that, we are free to write poetry in any language. There is a letter where Prabhupada says you can write poetry in the German language. There is a letter. And many people have the impression that German is a very rough language. But you can have beautiful poetry in any language whatsoever. So there is a letter which Prabhupada wrote to an unknown devotee. There is a letter to unknown where he says, I will send you subject matters for writing poetry and you can versify it into the German language. So any language is suitable for writing poetry. I thank you so much for that beautiful reflection. Anybody else? We have time, right, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Okay. We have time for a question or two more and then we will break for lunch. Anybody else wants to say something? Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, would you like to give a reflection or two?
Thank you, Guru. That was wonderful. And nice to bring it in after the fighting of the morning. I think it was a nice, nice to have that as a reflection. I had one question. We talked about the two banks of union and separation. Can you just clarify, for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, is separation in and of itself the goal, or is separation only considered the meditation in order to ultimately have the union? Like, can you just clarify, because sometimes we hear that, separation is the goal, and then sometimes we also hear that separation is considered in such a position because it enriches the union.
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj. So the river has two embankments. Just outside here there is a small river flowing, right? So you can relate to it. So the river has two embankments. One embankment is union and one is separation. And in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, separation is heavily emphasized upon. What is the reason? Separation is much more relishable than union. Agreed? Yeah, theoretically, we are all saying yes. But how is separation more relishable than union? This is something which we need to understand. Now, in the material world, also, this occurs from time to time. I will give an example of the mundane world, so it becomes helpful for us to understand, because many of us might have had experience of this. In the mundane world, especially where I stay in the western part of India, in Mumbai. And Mumbai is a place which is responsible for spoiling the entire India through its movie industry. So every year, the movie industry churns out millions of songs. Many songs are songs of happiness and union. Many songs are songs of sadness and separation. Now, anybody from India here who can tell me which songs are appreciated more? Wow. Sad songs. Oh my goodness. Why? Sadness is supposed to be, it leads to suffering, right? So why are the sad songs appreciated more? It is because when one is able to empathize with the sadness of somebody else, a special type of rasa, material rasa, flows within the heart. The origin of that is in the spiritual world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sad because in the mood of Srimati Radharani, he is separated from Sri Krishna. And therefore the acharyas, they try to get together and alleviate his separation, his mood of separation. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loves to relish that mood of separation more and more, because there is a verse in the Padyavali which will be discussed tomorrow. But since you asked me, I have to let the secret out. All right. There is a verse in the Padyavali where Krishna himself is giving out the answer. Sangama viraha vikalpe varamiha viraha na sangamastasya sange saiva tathaika tribhuvanam apitan mayam virahe. He says, Krishna himself is saying, Sangama viraha vikalpe. If you give me both options, Sangama union and viraha separation, Varamiha viraha, I will choose separation. Na sangamastasya, I don't want to choose union with her. What is the reason? Sange saiva tathaika. When we are united, when we meet each other, I see her in only one place, nowhere else in the universe. But when we are separated, I see her in each and everything in the universe. Everything reminds me of Srimati Radharani. This is what he says. So separation brings out that omnipresence of the beloved in ways that union does not bring about. So that is why separation is much more relished by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they all like to get together into a big group and cry. That is what they like to do. And that is their favorite pastime. So, but we don't have to artificially agree to it. Once we are naturally convinced about it, then we should really, because many devotees, they may not be convinced that separation is the highest. So my suggestion is, please experience both first from Rupa Goswami, then we will come to know, we will see what is what, then we can make up our minds. In the end, our goal is to unite Srimati Radharani and Krishna. That is the goal of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experiences separation at that point of time also, we try to enhance that mood by singing various songs for his pleasure. So I hope that satisfies the query, because I can give a theoretical answer to that query at this point of time. It is something to be experienced. This is my limitation at this point of time. But I hope, your query was satisfied to a certain extent. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Is there some kind of understanding that initially there had been a union, so that one can actually feel separated because one knows what union is like?
Beautiful. Actually, this is the case with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's separation is such, he has first seen Krishna and then the separation has occurred. So that is called as viraha by Sri Rupa Goswami. The case of the conditioned living entities is that they have never had a single darshan in their lives. So Sri Rupa Goswami calls their case as abhav. Abhav means somebody who has never even seen Krishna once. So one who has never even seen Krishna once, how will they feel separation from him? In order to feel separation, they should have some initial experience of seeing Shri Krishna. Once they see Shri Krishna, then that attachment is deep rooted in the heart. Then when the separation occurs, then the relishment of the pain begins. Pain is supposed to be relished, in the spiritual world. So that relishment of the pain begins after that. But it's very joyous. It is very, that separation also, the experience is not material distress. It is very joyous. So it has to be experienced once. And it can be experienced by the followers of Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very easily. So thank you for bringing up that point. There is a difference between viraha and abhav. Most living entities, conditioned living entities, are in the state of abhav. They have no previous experience of the darshan of Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when says, Ashlishyava padaratam pinashtumam, and these big statements. That is, we are not able to appreciate it sometimes because we don't have the same experience of seeing Krishna as, the eternal associates of Krishna. So that is the reason why. Thank you so much for kindly bringing about that point. Okay. All right. Should we pause here? Okay. So thank you very much, dear devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Krishna Parshad Prabhu ki.
Srila Prabhupada ki.